What's going on, Internet? Mike here, and today we're going to be talking about this Carlee Russell story, and more specifically, the media coverage that's been coming from this Carlee Russell story, and more specifically, the Breakfast Club's reaction to this story because they said some pretty interesting things today on their show. And if you guys don't know, the Breakfast Club is a radio show that's been going on for about 13 years now. It's mostly hip hop centric. It's one of the biggest hip hop platforms in the world. So a lot of people listen to this show and they just got picked up by BET. So congrats to them for that. But just a little background about why I'm making this video. I was working out today and I was watching some Breakfast Club clips on my TV. And I was just like, what are y'all saying? Like the overall message of what they said was pretty good. And I'll get into that at the end. But I think there's some things that need to be clarified about how the missing persons process works and why people are so drawn to this story. Those are some of the main issues I found with their comments. And just very quickly, the hosts for this episode were DJ Envy, Charlamagne the God, and Alicia Renee, who stepped in as a guest host. They've been having a rotation of guest hosts since Angela Yee left, and I think it's actually doing pretty good for their show. I think it has a lot of different personalities because Angela Yee is such a tough person to replace. So I think that having a wide variety of people coming in is really good. And I will say, who is the person that everybody is liking? I want her to stay. Jess Hilarious. Jess Hilarious should be the newest host of the show. I think that is a widely agreed upon decision that she has the best personality to mix with Charlamagne and DJ Envy. I'm just throwing that in there. Now back to roasting them about this take. Now in this clip, I will say I have no issue with much of what DJ Envy said because he really didn't have too strong of an opinion about anything that was too crazy. He was pretty much agreeing with what everybody's saying, that this lady is pretty much lying. So no shade or issues with DJ Envy here. But the other two, I can't say the same. But before we get into that, here's a quick summary from Forbes about Miss Carlee Russell's incident. The story of Carlee Russell, a 25-year-old nursing student who alleged she was kidnapped in Alabama last week while attempting to help a toddler on the interstate. And her mysterious return home has captivated national attention, but law enforcement officials are now saying she may not have been abducted at all. There's no evidence of a lost child. On July 13th, after leaving work for the day and grabbing dinner, Russell, while driving on I-459 in Hoover, Alabama, just south of Birmingham, called 911 to report a lost child in a diaper who was wandering along the side of the highway. After she called police, officials say Russell called a family member who lost contact with her during the call, but the line remained open. Traffic camera footage released later by police showed Russell pulling over, exiting the driver's side of her red Mercedes and walking around the passenger side of the vehicle, but by the time police arrived 3 minutes later, Russell had disappeared. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance remained a mystery, with police releasing little information besides the fact that they had no other calls of a missing child. Just before 10:45 p.m. on Saturday, about 49 hours after she first disappeared, Russell returned home on foot, ending a 2-day statewide search. Medics were dispatched to Russell's house after she returned on Saturday to help with an unresponsive breathing person, but when they arrived, Russell was awake and speaking. After receiving medical attention, Russell spoke with investigators Sunday and they observed a small lip injury, a tear on her shirt, and saw she had $107 in cash in her right sock. She also gave investigators her account of what happened on July 13th. Police say Russell told them a man came out of the woods and told her he was checking on the child and then forced her over a fence and into a car. The next thing she could remember, Russell told investigators she was being in the trailer of a truck with a man with orange hair and a woman while hearing a crying baby. Russell further alleged that the man and woman took her to a home, took photos of her while she was undressed before she claimed she was able to escape and run through the woods to get home. Since she's returned home, law enforcement officials have been unable to verify details of her allegations. Through their investigation, police learned that Russell purchased snacks from a Target before she went missing, but police located her car and observed no snacks in the vehicle. At the time, police officers found a wig, a cell phone, a purse on the roadway near her abandoned car. The Hoover Police Department said in a Facebook post. Investigators also said Wednesday they did not find any evidence of a toddler on the interstate. And lastly, the Hoover Police Department, with help from the U.S. Secret Service, said they analyzed Russell's internet search history. Among the searches, they found Google searches of an action thriller kidnapping movie, Taken, the day she was reportedly abducted. So she was looking up the movie Taken before she did this whole incident. Other search results described by investigators on Russell's cell phone or work computer included searches of the maximum age for an Amber Alert and whether or not someone has to pay for an Amber Alert. Authorities said Russell also searched for how to take money from a register without getting caught and a one-way bus ticket from Birmingham to Nashville. So that's the story. It has the internet ablaze. Everybody's coming up with their theories. Everybody's making their own opinions about what happened. We still don't have all the facts about this situation. So we're kind of still just waiting for the police department to release more information. The family's not really talking to anyone, not the public. They're asking for privacy at this time. So that makes sense. But that leaves the public open to make their own opinions about what's really going on. So with all that in mind, what did the Breakfast Club have to say about it? Well, the obvious was stated that she was likely faking the whole incident, but here's where I take issue with the commentary on this topic.
Some random ass searches. But, this is why I told y'all don't be in a rush to be on either side of, whether she was lying or not. Let the facts come out and the truth will come out with it. Is the whole story all the way out?
I do appreciate Charlamagne the God's initial take of don't choose sides on situations like this, especially when we don't have all the facts. We need to wait to know more information before we cast judgment on somebody, because a lot of disparaging theories and comments have been made about Miss Wilson without much proof. But to play devil's advocate here, man, we all knew she was lying. Look at the information from the case. We all knew she was lying with the facts that we were presented at the time. So they went with the lie and just went further than that. And this is the internet. It happens.
Well, at least let me ask you a question. I've seen a lot of women upset about this because they're saying, the threat with human trafficking, like Charlamagne said, is serious. And because of this, they feel like maybe law enforcement or police might take cases serious anymore. So how do you feel about that yourself, Tez, as well? Because you guys are women and it's really dealt with a lot of women getting kidnapped.
1000%. I mean, first of all, I always believe black women. Let's start there. Which is why so many of us rallied immediately. I know, Charlotte, what you said, we have to make sure all the facts come out first. But, when we see one of us missing, Tez, I'm sure you can agree, we're reposting, posting, because, society will look for Waldo before they look for us.
So moving on, we get Alicia Renee. Now, might have not been the best time to say believe anything, because this whole situation seems to be based on a lie. I get what she's trying to say, that a lot of people who make these claims and statements are telling the truth. But in this certain situation, we shouldn't believe everyone because she was clearly lying. The police department hasn't confirmed that this is all a lie yet, but they're pretty much saying that without saying that. And I can respect the police department doing that without trying to put the whole family on blast. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know if they might make more statements, outright saying that it was a lie or possibly charging her in the future. But now that's what we got. And speaking on the police, throughout this video, you'll see a lot of police blaming when, to me, it seems like they're doing a lot for this case, maybe because it's being so publicized. But before even that, it seems like they had the video on time. They searched her car. They implemented a statewide search. It seems like they were pulling out all the stops to find out where Miss Wilson was. And Charlamagne the God even says this.
And think about it. If they were allegedly looking for her for 48 hours, they couldn't even find her and she wasn't even really missing. So that lets you know they wasn't really looking.
So I don't know where this mentality of the police are omniscient or omnipresent at all times. I don't know where that mentality comes from to find all these people anywhere at any time. I don't know where it comes from. It's wild to me to just assume that police should be able to find every single missing person within hours. It is an impossible feat, and not to mention that she didn't have the biggest tool police used to find people, which was her phone. My mom lost my brother in a Walmart a few times, and we couldn't find him for a half an hour. So it is not as easy to find people as you may think, even with every resource available, especially young kids. It is very difficult and a long, extensive process to find a missing person, especially kids. They don't have usually cell phones on them. Hopefully they do, but a lot of them might not. And a lot of them are very vulnerable in pretty much any situation where they're not with their parents or by themselves. You really have to trust or know where your kids are going. So just to say that the police are not doing enough to find all these people is crazy, because it's not too often that a lot of people are found just in general. And with the distrust of the police rising so rapidly, most people don't want to talk to the police no matter what the issue is. And I think that relates to a bit of what Alicia Renee says here.
Well, no, but that's where accountability within our own community,
That's right.
is prevalent, should be prevalent.
Right.
Yeah.
And I agree. We need more accountability in our communities. We need to step up in Black communities in so many ways. Quick side note here. Shout out to Teslin Figueroa. She comes in and does the news updates essentially. And she comes with facts. And it brings a much needed legality structure here because DJ Envy and Charlamagne, don't get me wrong, I like them, but they don't know much about the legality of a lot of things. They'll bring up statements about certain situations. I'm like, legally, that's not going to happen. They think a lot of things are going to happen, but they don't. She's doing a great job with the media and the legality of certain situations, and I hope she sticks around. So lastly, in the Donkey of the Day monologue, Charlamagne the God says this.
Just that fast. Now look, Carlee probably lied. But don't let that distract us from the fact that hundreds of thousands of Black women and children are really missing in this country. I don't know why the Carlee story caught fire on social media the way that it did and the others don't. I don't know. Y'all throwing all these conspiracies out there. Well, ask yourself, how come this story blew up, but other stories of missing Black women and children don't? Real stories of missing Black women and children don't. You think Carlee was the only Black woman who went missing this weekend? And just our luck, the one story everyone gravitated to is the fake one? I don't know. Doesn't feel right to me. But don't let that ever discourage you from raising awareness to the epidemic that is missing Black women and children in this country.
I personally even left a comment on this video to try to help point out some of the hypocrisy of this statement. The reason this story is publicized more than real stories of missing persons is because media outlets like The Breakfast Club are using this story for content. If that's not the case, why are there at least three, I've only seen 3 at the time of this recording, thumbnails on this channel about this story? The Breakfast Club, you also, Charlamagne, you guys are not exempt from this hypocrisy. Y'all are using this story for content. I don't want to overshadow what good that they are doing with this topic though. Teslin Figueroa did cover nearly 30 missing children in Cleveland, Ohio a few weeks ago. And I guess I am an avid watcher of The Breakfast Club because I do remember that like it was yesterday. But stories like that are few and far between. And yes, I know Charlamagne the God is pushing the Finding Tamika book about an incident that happened in our home state of South Carolina. But all I'm saying is do not shame society for not caring about the real stories when you yourselves do not bring light to many stories as well. Like, yes, those stories come up, but it's not like it's the only thing you guys or other media are going to cover. Certain things like that are more touted for local news. I guess we can make it statewide news if we have more information. But just to assume that we should know about every single missing person, he himself even said that Russell was probably not the only missing person that went missing last weekend. So there are so many stories for us to know about, so many missing people. Unless there is a centralized station just for missing people and we get more coverage just in general on the whole topic, those stories will fall by the wayside. So it's up to stations like you, media sources like any other media sources that's going to cover this story to talk about those missing people. So, in conclusion, I just want to say,
I just want to know one thing. You ready? Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God, stop fucking lying.